So RFK Jr., which I've been highlighting some quotes and clips from him. He's running for president. Most of you know he's running for president against Joe Biden in the primary, the Democratic primary. And I've been playing some clips, showing some things from him. And as I've said before, it doesn't mean I agree with every word he says, but of the stuff he says, first of all, I really like that a lot of it is third rail. A lot of it is outside the realm of allowable thought for Democrats, but really for candidates in general, at least the ones that are allowed to get very far into our so-called democratic process that is anything but democratic. This is, how can you call voting on black box machine where you can never know what the hell happened? You can't even you just blind, you just stab it, close your eyes and push your finger against a thing and say you voted. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm against anyone who's calling out these things in a certain way that is against the allowable thought process on these channels, on your mainstream media, in the Democratic primary, in the Republican debates. These two parties that are corporate shill parties that are completely accountable to corporate America and do nothing else. But anyway, so that's one reason. But the other reason is that of the things RFK Jr. says, I agree with about, I think, 80%. I haven't seen it all, but I'd say 80%, which is roughly 79% more than any other Democratic candidate. So why not? Why not highlight some of this? And again, I don't think we should talk about presidential elections for fucking 2 years. So I'm not highlighting this because of the campaigning. I'm highlighting it because I think that the Democrats will not be able to handle that he's saying these things, and they will find a way to sideline him. And as I've said before, they actually have inserted something into their bylaws that says they can delete anyone they want from the Democratic primaries simply because they believe he or she is not Democratic enough. If they decide that, if the head of the DNC decides that, you're out. So I think they very well may decide that with RFK Jr. But anyway, for now, he's running. But this is something else he said that is third rail, that is not allowable by your Democrats, by your mainstream media cabal in general. He tweeted out, instead of championing free speech, the U.S. actively persecutes journalists and whistleblowers. I'll pardon brave truth tellers like Julian Assange and investigate the corruption and crimes they exposed. This isn't the Soviet Union. I don't know why you had to throw in a hit against the Soviet Union. Come on, man. But the America I love doesn't imprison dissidents. Free Assange. He then said other brave truth tellers include John Kiriakou, Chelsea Manning, reality winner, Daniel Hale, Thomas Drake, Jeffrey Sterling, and Edward Snowden. They were trying to return America to its democratic and humanitarian ideals. And pretty much all of that is never said by your mainstream media. It is ignored. These people that it's just said in that list are attacked mercilessly. I mean, John Kiriakou has been attacked and he's not even in prison anymore. He ended up with like 2 years because he took the plea deal where he had to say that he has harmed America and he understood that he was harming America by revealing that we have a torture program, despite that it's against the Geneva Conventions, which we think doesn't apply to us. You know, that whole here's how countries should behave in order to be rational, adult, ethical, moral nations. That whole agreement that we all signed on to, well, that's not for the United States. That's just for the other countries. You go and enjoy your Geneva Convention that you've signed on to. You go enjoy that, and we're gonna sit over here and do whatever the fuck we want, strapping car batteries to dudes' balls just to see if we can get them to tell us some terrorist enterprise that doesn't actually exist, but we're insisting it does. And you know, it's funny what you'll confess to when you have something strapped to your balls. Anyway, we uh, so Kiriakou, he spent 2 years in prison because he had to confess and claim he plead guilty, but he's out. And I've done many interviews and many conversations with him, but they haven't stopped going after him. He's had his life destroyed. They every time they can, the chance they can get to attack him and to cut his sources of income, they have. So it doesn't stop with prison. That's how our empire works. Once you have revealed the truth of your empire, of the empire, the U.S. empire, then they will continue to go after you, and that includes all these other people on this list. I mean, Chelsea Manning was released, and then they re-imprisoned her for another year. Daniel Hale, Thomas Drake, Jeffrey Sterling, Edward Snowden. They continue to go after all of them, but of course, top on that list is Julian Assange, who has been tortured for over 10 years. And you won't hear this from very many Democratic candidates. I think Marianne Williamson has said some things about how Assange needs to be freed. So thank goodness there's another. But in general, this is not allowable in the Democrat debate. It's not allowable for most Republicans either. Obviously, Pompeo, being a Republican, and Trump, they were plotting to assassinate Assange. So that's the kind of clowns that we have running this country, sociopathic clowns. And, I will give RFK Jr. the credit for being brave enough to speak up about these things and to say the truth about things like Julian Assange. So, but we'll see continued attacks, as it gets closer to. By the way, they've already said that it's quite possible that Biden won't debate any of these people running against him, primarying him as Democrats. So the DNC will work to make sure there's no debates, because let's be honest, Joe Biden would look like a 1980s robot who just had a pitcher of water dumped over its head. Sparks would be flying out. His head would be spinning around. He wouldn't be giving cogent answers to anything during a debate. Nothing fucking, they wouldn't have a complete sentence. And I realized I shouldn't have stuttered so much on a sentence where I'm saying he can't have a complete sentence, but it was still a complete sentence once you cut out all the stuttering. You can't, he can't debate these people. And they know that because of how horrific it would look. He's had fewer and fewer press moments where he sits in front of the press, because they know that you can see that there's not much left there. And so they've already said that it's unlikely that he'll be debating any of these people that are primarying him. The effort will be, mark my words, this will be the effort. One will be to, in these early stages, years before the goddamn election, they'll float some stuff to try and destroy these people, a quote here or there to try and, so far, I think the ones that have announced is just RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, but they'll float some things to try and destroy them. But outside of that, they'll just give them zero media coverage. And I know that RFK Jr. has done some CNN interviews and stuff. So right now they are giving him a little, but I imagine ultimately it will just be zero media coverage. So most of the nation will not even know that there's anyone running against Joe Biden in the primary. And that'll be the end of it. Now, if they manage, if RFK Jr. manages to not be as shadow banned as I am, and actually manages to get his message out there and get enough people talking about him, then they'll step it up to the next phase and the next phase. And who knows, maybe eventually they could get to the final phase of stopping someone running for president or being president, as, I don't know, RFK's father might know when he was running for president, or RFK Jr.'s uncle might know when he was president. That is the final stage. I don't think that generally nowadays, there was a time back in our history where they were, the CIA, the FBI, and the others were assassinating many of our top leaders in our country. MLK, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, RFK Jr., JFK. But nowadays, they do it far less with assassination. They will do that with little people who are revealing the truth, but they do the bigger figures far less with assassination and more with lawfare. Lawfare is the most common practice now they sideline these people with lawsuits and try and lock them up or try and make it impossible for them to run.